Hello, I'm Blaze, and welcome back to Warframe. Or perhaps, indeed, welcome to Warframe. I'm not sure if I'm making this kind of video too late exactly, but there have been a recent influx of fresh faces. So, to help get all the new people started, I would like to quickly run through some early weapons that you may like to use, because there are a decent number of weapons at early mastery ranks that are actually reasonably powerful. So, welcome to a little mini-show I would like to call Mastery Rank 0, where I will give a brief summary of some readily available weapons which a new Tenno might want to grab to make sure they're not using those Mark 1 weapons for any longer than they absolutely have to. Today I will specifically be covering primary weapons easily accessible from the market at Mastery Ranks 0 and 1, just to make sure that you have something to set your sights on immediately. When testing these weapons, I'm actually going to be brutally unfair to them. I'm going to have no more than a rank 1 base damage mod equipped on them and nothing else. As a new player, you will be short on mods, but you're almost certainly going to have more than this. At the very least, you'll be able to fit on a couple of other things like some element mods. So this is a pretty grim scenario I'm simulating. On top of that, I'll be doing all of my testing of these heavily under-modded weapons on either Saturn or Jupiter. And again, by then you're absolutely going to have way more to put on these things than that. So your results will almost certainly be better than mine. The reason I am doing this is that I want to make fucking certain that any of the weapons I'm about to recommend are at least likely to work in your favor. Explanations aside, let's get going. I'm going to try to give a reasonably wide cross-section so you can pick out the one that fits your playstyle preferences best. I'm going to start with automatic rifles. The first of the automatic rifles I'm going to recommend is the Braton. This is sort of your bog standard assault rifle, and if you picked up the Mark 1 version, will be a straight upgrade in most respects. The Braton isn't all that good, but it is available straight away for 25,000 credits, so it is also extremely cheap and available for use immediately. Its 20 base damage, 45 round magazine, and a reasonable rate of fire should work out just fine on earlier planets. There's not really a whole lot more to say about the Braton really, it's your all-around Tenno's first rifle. The second automatic rifle I'll mention is the Venerable Carrick. This is in most respects a straight upgrade to the Braton with a significantly higher base damage per shot at 27 damage and a faster fire rate. It does have a smaller magazine capacity at 30 rounds instead, but other than that, it's a pretty solid little rifle available early on if you can foot the comparatively expensive build costs. Also, it looks like an M4 or an M16 or some other AR-15 variant, so there's that. A great choice for someone who likes assault rifles. All of its crafting requirements can be found quickly, however it will cost a fair number of credits. The blueprint will cost 30,000 credits, then actually building it in the foundry will cost a further 30,000 credits. The rest of the resources, however, will be available to you immediately after completing Vor's prize. 2 neurodes, which you can find on Earth, 400 alloy plates from Venus, 900 salvage on Mars, and 100 polymer bundles available either from Mercury or Venus. My final assault rifle style weapon recommendation will be the Burst-On. This one is for those who enjoy burst fire rifles more. Yet more base damage at 30 per shot, the Burst-On fires in 3-round bursts and should be a decent rifle to pick up if that sounds good to you. The Burst-On has some vertical recoil, but it isn't too hard to control by pulling down on your mouse a little bit each burst. Do note that burst fire weapons handle much better when you add fire rate mods on, so again, my stipulation of equipping no more than a rank 1 serration is super unfair to this weapon. Speed Trigger will both speed up the bursts and shorten the time between being able to shoot. The credit cost is cheaper than the Carrick, but it does have a minor stumbling block in that nanospores will require you to get to Saturn first, which can be unlocked by killing the boss of Mars, the Sergeant. The blueprint will cost 15,000 credits and will require another 25,000 credits in the foundry. For the other materials, it'll need a single morphic, available on Mercury or Mars, 150 alloy plates available on Venus, 600 nanospores from Saturn, and 400 polymer bundles from either Mercury or Venus. Under this category, I am also briefly going to mention the Crocotta. The Crocotta can be extremely strong, but it is a very bad choice for a new player because it is reliant on its critical hits and status chance. Status you can take advantage of by running some spy missions for those 60% dual element mods, but the critical hits you won't really be able to take advantage of until you get Point Strike and Vital Sense ready. Without those, it's far too ammo inefficient. But keep it in mind for later because it is fantastic with the proper mods. Automatic rifles out of the way, let's move on to potential candidates for early semi-automatic rifles. The first one is the Latron, and it's an extremely solid standby if you would rather go with a semi-automatic rifle instead of an automatic rifle. Its base damage at 55 lets it carry itself well into late game with the right mods, and it has a reasonably snappy fire rate, so you can shoot more quickly at close range if needed. And not only that, it is also notably itself a crafting requirement for the Tiburon, which is an extremely powerful burst fire rifle that I can personally attest to being able to stay with you through your entire journey. As such, the Latron provides plenty of room for growth no matter what you decide to do with it. The Latron's blueprint is available for 20,000 credits in the market and will need another 20,000 credits in the foundry. As for materials, it'll need 5 Morphics available from Mercury or Mars, 800 plastids from Saturn, 900 salvage from Mars, and 1000 alloy plates available on Venus. The second recommendation for this category is going to be the Vulcar. Yes, here's something for those of you who enjoy scoped rifles. The Vulcar is the weapon of choice for Grineer ballistas, and it's actually a pretty amazing choice. The Vulcar can scale with you well into endgame if you want to keep it around, and it has a Syndicate Augment mod available for it by the name Lasting Purity, which will add a substantial damage bonus while scoped in. For that matter, the Vulcar is also powerful fresh out of the foundry, thanks to the fact that it has a base damage of 225 per shot. The Vulcar also has somewhat elevated critical stats that, while not much compared to other sniper weapons, are certainly enough to be worth taking advantage of later on when you get your crit mods. As a final note, the Vulcar also has the most varied range of magnification settings of all the sniper rifles, starting at 2.5 times magnification at the lowest setting, 6 times magnification in the middle, and maxing out at a very high power 12 times magnification. A setting for all situations, allowing it to remain useful no matter where you happen to be. The Vulcar's blueprint is available for 20,000 credits in the market, and will need another 20,000 credits in the foundry. The materials the Vulcar will need is 5 Morphics from Mercury or Mars, 800 circuits available on Venus, 1,200 salvage which you can get on Mars, and 800 plastids from Saturn. Now, somewhat related to scoped rifles, we have bows. These are characterized by being able to draw them back for higher damage per shot, and all of them typically have high damage as well as strong critical stats, though there are some exceptions. Also, bows come along with innate punch-through, allowing them to strike targets behind thin cover, and have a tendency to pin your enemies' bodies to walls, which can be pretty entertaining. The Cirrhosis is quite heavily maligned, but that's usually because it tends to be compared to the Dread and the Paris Prime. When you're starting out, however, the Cirrhosis is a perfectly reasonable option thanks to having a higher base damage and critical chance compared to the Paris. It does primarily impact damage, which is better against Corpus shielding but is generally weaker against Grineer armor. However, this can be counteracted by using the appropriate elemental combos for your intended targets. The Cirrhosis blueprint costs 20,000 credits in the market and will need another 15,000 credits to craft. The materials you'll need will be 3 gallium from Mars, 700 plastids available on Saturn, 600 polymer bundles which you can get on either Mercury or Venus, and 1,750 ferrite which you can get on either Mercury or Earth. Alternatively, if you'd rather go with puncture damage to take on Grineer armor at the cost of weaker damage against Corpus shields, you can also go with the Paris instead. It is quite similar aside from the slightly weaker critical chance and total base damage. The Paris's blueprint also costs 20,000 credits in the market and will also need another 15,000 credits to craft. As for the crafting materials, the Paris will need 3 Morphics available on either Mercury or Mars, 600 plastids from Saturn, 700 polymer bundles from either Mercury or Venus, and 2,000 nanospores from Saturn. And finally, for the Tenno that prefers to get up close and personal, shotguns. Believe it or not, I'm actually going to recommend the Strun if you want to play around with shotguns early on. Not the Mark I Strun, mind, the Mark I Strun is awful. But the default Strun does much better thanks to the shotgun buffs, doing 300 damage per shot. The Strun series are shell-fed shotguns, so you load each shell individually. It's a good idea to keep them topped up as a result. It will also be at its most effective when you're reasonably close to the enemy, though you can do a bit of damage from a moderate distance as well. Another reason that the Strun is actually a relatively attractive option as a starter shotgun is that, like the Braton, it's available straight away for 25,000 credits with no need to actually build it. So go for it if shotguns are your thing. Later on you will have access to the Tigress and Heck, which are both extremely powerful, but your choices for shotguns are a lot more limited early on. So, thanks to being cheap, readily available, and reasonably powerful, the Strun is a decent early choice. Also, it tends to blow bodies away, which is pretty fun too. This concludes my rundown of potentially good primary weapon choices for the fresh-faced Tenno. Hopefully this will help you pick out something that you will enjoy, and help you avoid investing in something that just doesn't do the job it needs to. And if you have found this video helpful, then I hope you stay tuned for the next Mastery Rank 0. Whenever the hell I make that. Thank you for watching the first episode of Mastery Rank 0. All comments are appreciated, and I hope to see you around next time. For other Warframe content, you can also check out my opinions on the Prismatic Gorgon or the new Distreza Rapier. And as always, good luck, have fun, and take care.